This panel celebrates the work of translation of William Tyndale, whose dates are 1494 to 1536. Christian humanists at this time had a desire to bring the Bible to common people and to counter the clerical ignorance which was evident at the time. The revival of interest in the classics and in Hebrew learning generally was spurred by a desire to revise a corrupt Latin version of the Bible. William Tyndale, who was trained at Oxford and Cambridge, was convinced that people needed to have access to the Bible in their own language. And he tried to get permission to work on a translation while he lived in England, but to no avail. So because of persecution, he worked on the continent, mostly in Antwerp, from 1524 to 1536. He worked on the translation of the Old Testament and a revision of the New. He completed the translation of the New Testament, had it printed in Worms, and within a short time, copies were being smuggled into England. He translated the Old Testament directly from the Hebrew and the New Testament from the Greek. He consulted the Vulgate, Luther's German Bible, and Erasmus's Greek Testament of 1519 and 1522. In all this, however, he relied mostly on the Greek rather than Luther or the Vulgate. Though Tyndale could not return to England, the attitude of the authorities there was changing. By 1536, Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII's chief minister, and Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, were convinced that approval should be given for a translation into English. Queen Anne Boleyn accepted a copy of Tyndale's new edition, but the king himself was still hostile. Tyndale was captured, tried as a heretic, and in October 1536 was burned at the stake. As he died, he reportedly said, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." Tyndale was to influence subsequent translations, especially the authorized version of 1611, in which it is said that 90% of Tyndale's work is included unaltered. To Tyndale, we owe such common phrases as, "In him we live and move and have our being," "For here we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come." Turning to the panel, on the bottom here shows the printing of the first edition begun in 1525 and completed in 1526. The middle section shows the translation work being conducted while Tyndale was in Antwerp, and you see the background of the city there. The top part shows copies of the work being smuggled back into England in bales of cotton. It is said that the clerical establishment spent £600 buying up copies, as many as they could locate, and these were collected and burned outside St. Paul's Cathedral. Figures in this panel represent the Archbishop of Canterbury and other figures, including Sir Thomas More. The bottom of the window is dedicated to Thomas O'Meara, who was the second principal of Wycliffe College here from 1906 until his death in 1930. Tyndale's death was a turning point for the better in England. A year after his death, his dying prayer was answered when royal recognition was given to the Coverdale Bible. Thomas Cromwell, who was Secretary of State to Henry VIII, realized the need of a translation and the king's detestation of the incomplete work of Tyndale, whom he regarded as a heretic, encouraged Coverdale to publish a complete English translation of the Bible. Who was Coverdale?